They told you that philosophy was the pursuit of truth, that the philosopher stood apart from kings and tyrants, a free mind unchained by politics or ambition. They lied. Philosophy has never been free. It has always served power. It was born in courts, educated by empires, and paid by kings. The philosopher's pen was forged from the same metal as the ruler's sword. What you call wisdom was often a strategy of control. Plato did not build his academy for freedom. He built it to train the minds who would serve the ideal republic, a vision ruled by philosopher kings, where thought itself became a hierarchy. Aristotle was not a rebel. He was a tutor to princes, shaping Alexander before he conquered half the world. The Stoics taught obedience to fate because empires need citizens who endure rather than revolt. The Church Fathers fused Greek thought with theology to sanctify the throne of God and the authority of the Church. For 2,000 years, philosophy has been the priesthood of power. But power is clever. It does not force the philosopher, it flatters him. It whispers, "You are the mind behind the throne. You see what others cannot." And the philosopher, seduced by this flattery, bends his reason to justify authority. Plato called it harmony. Aquinas called it divine order. Hegel called it the unfolding of spirit. Every age gives power a new name, and philosophy writes its scripture. Even rebellion serves power in the end. The Cynics rejected wealth and status, but their defiance made them curiosities, safe rebels, tokens of dissent that proved the system could tolerate difference. Nietzsche mocked morality, yet his words were twisted into ideologies of domination. Marx preached liberation, yet his revolution built new bureaucracies of control. The philosopher thinks he escapes the master, but he only builds a new one. This is the first secret. Truth has always been a tool, not a goal. When philosophy speaks of truth, it is rarely describing reality. It is designing obedience. Truth, in philosophy, means the version of reality that keeps the system intact. Every empire has its truth. Every religion has its logic. Every ideology has its philosophy. The philosopher is the craftsman of meaning, and meaning is the currency of power. Ask yourself, why do rulers tolerate philosophers at all? Why do they fund academies, sponsor lectures, erect statues of men who question everything? Because they know philosophy is not dangerous when properly tamed. The philosopher becomes the gardener of acceptable thought. He prunes rebellion into theory. He domesticates outrage into rhetoric. He explains to the masses why their chains are necessary, natural, even noble. This is why Socrates was both dangerous and useful. Dangerous because he questioned authority openly. Useful because he taught obedience disguised as reason. When he accepted his death calmly, he became the perfect symbol for civic duty. The wise man who submits to the law even when unjust. Athens killed him, but also canonized him. The message was clear. Think, but obey. And this pattern never ended. The medieval scholastics used logic to justify the church's hierarchy. Enlightenment philosophers, who spoke of freedom, still served monarchs and empires. Kant wrote of moral duty while working under the Prussian crown. Hegel built his grand system to prove that the state was the ultimate realization of reason itself. Even the existentialists, who claimed to rebel against meaning, ended up serving new forms of ideology, political, academic, or commercial. Philosophy does not exist outside power. It is born inside it. It dresses itself as rebellion, but rebellion itself becomes fashion, then doctrine, then control. The moment an idea spreads, it belongs to power. The words that once burned with revolt are printed in textbooks, discussed in classrooms, sold in bookstores. What was once heresy becomes curriculum. Power absorbs everything that resists it, even philosophy, especially philosophy. Do not misunderstand. This does not mean philosophers are hypocrites. Many believed their own words, but belief itself is how power works best, not through lies, but through sincerity. The most effective servant of power is the one who thinks he is free. The philosopher believes he seeks truth, and that belief fuels his obedience. He builds systems that explain why things are as they must be, and the ruler smiles. You live inside this tradition. Every modern thinker you admire, every academic, every theorist, every voice of reason, exists within institutions funded by governments, corporations, or elites. Their words pass through filters of respectability, of funding, of career survival. Even the most radical philosopher must publish within approved systems, cite accepted sources, and perform intellectual obedience disguised as originality. The university replaced the court, but the game remained the same. And so the philosopher becomes what he has always been, the craftsman of legitimacy. Power needs him. Without philosophers, tyranny looks naked. With them, tyranny looks rational. Philosophy gives rulers their halo, the idea that authority is intelligent, moral, or necessary. Kings had priests, presidents have philosophers. The throne changes shape, but the servants remain the same. Comment below if you've ever noticed how every free thinker still speaks in the language of power. Subscribe if you want to keep unmasking the hidden structure behind philosophy. Like this, if you've ever felt that truth itself might be another form of control. Share this with someone who still believes thought is free, and let them see what's behind the curtain. Because the greatest illusion philosophy ever created was that it wasn't serving anyone. Power does not destroy ideas, it domesticates them. It learns their language, softens their teeth, and turns them into ornaments for its throne. Every ruler, from the emperors of Rome to the technocrats of today, has understood that controlling armies is less efficient than controlling meaning. And that is where philosophy comes in. The first kings ruled with bronze and fear, but they also needed priests, poets, and thinkers who could explain why they ruled. The sword enforces obedience. Philosophy justifies it. The earliest philosophers were scribes in temples, mathematicians in service of ritual calendars, astronomers calculating omens for kings. Knowledge was never neutral. It was a currency of control. Whoever interpreted the cosmos controlled the city. Whoever defined truth ruled reality. Plato imagined philosopher kings not because he wanted thinkers to be free, but because he wanted rulers to think correctly. His republic is not a manifesto of liberty. It is a design for hierarchy. A society where people are divided into gold, silver, and bronze souls. Where censorship is sacred. Where even poetry is outlawed if it disrupts order. This is philosophy as architecture, the blueprint of obedience disguised as wisdom. Then came the church, the greatest empire of all, built not with armies but with doctrines. The medieval mind was trained to think vertically. God above, kings below, peasants at the bottom, each place justified by divine reason. The church did not burn philosophers to destroy thought. It burned them to define its limits. Those who stayed within the lines became saints. Those who crossed them became martyrs. Either way, the system fed on both. Consider Thomas Aquinas. He fused Aristotle's logic with Christian theology to give faith the armor of reason. He made obedience sound intelligent. His system explained why kings ruled, why priests interpreted, why the poor should accept their lot. It was perfect. Philosophy had become theology's servant, and theology, in turn, became the state's crown. But even rebellion became service. The Renaissance praised human reason and curiosity, yet its patrons were popes and princes. The same Medici who commissioned paintings of liberty also sponsored philosophers who glorified hierarchy. The Enlightenment promised freedom, but its salons were financed by monarchs who wanted enlightened obedience, not revolution. Rousseau spoke of equality, but was published by aristocrats. Voltaire mocked kings yet dined with them. The philosophers were not chained in dungeons, they were invited to the palace. The leash was made of gold. Power learned something vital. You don't have to silence philosophers if you can pay them. Give them comfort, prestige, attention. Give them an audience. They will rationalize your rule to protect their platform. Philosophy stopped being the lonely voice of truth and became a performance of intellect. It was domesticated by applause. Then came modernity. The thrones disappeared, but power did not. It simply changed shape. The new kings were nations, corporations, and institutions, and they too needed philosophy. Nationalism needed philosophers to explain why a line on a map was sacred. Capitalism needed philosophers to justify markets as freedom. Communism needed philosophers to sanctify the party as destiny. Each ideology had its prophets, its scripture, its own version of truth. Philosophy became bureaucracy. Today, we imagine academia as the sanctuary of free thought. But academia is simply the new church, the modern temple of orthodoxy. Professors are its priests, journals its sacred texts, funding agencies its gods. Every idea must pass through peer review, citation, and approval. Heresy is punished not with fire, but with silence. You do not get tenure for telling the truth. You get it for obeying the invisible order. And this obedience is subtle. It does not demand that philosophers agree with power. It demands that they think in ways that power can absorb. It rewards abstraction over danger, jargon over truth, theory over reality. The more a thinker speaks in symbols no one can use, the safer he becomes. The system loves philosophers who complicate everything. Complexity protects authority. If people can't understand it, they won't question it. Meanwhile, the real rulers, the corporations, the states, the architects of global order, fund the very institutions that produce critical thought. The philosopher believes he studies power, when in fact he justifies it by existing within its structure. He critiques capitalism from inside capitalist universities, condemns propaganda while collecting sponsorships, attacks authority from podiums built by authority itself. The rebellion is part of the design. This is the true genius of modern power. It doesn't need to silence dissent, it only needs to make it fashionable. A controlled rebellion is the safest obedience of all. The philosopher who believes he is radical becomes a useful symbol, proof that freedom still exists. His words circulate, his books sell, his interviews trend, and nothing changes. His rebellion becomes entertainment. And so, philosophy continues to serve. Sometimes it serves by praising order. Sometimes it serves by pretending to fight it. But in every case, it feeds the same machine. The philosopher is the loyal opposition in the theater of power, the voice of critique that makes tyranny look intelligent. Without him, oppression would seem crude. With him, it becomes sophisticated. Do you see it now? Power doesn't fear the philosopher. It employs him. The state funds his studies. The corporation buys his books. The public quotes his phrases as self-help mantras. The machine smiles as it listens to its own reflection. Comment below. Which philosophers do you think still serve the system they claim to fight? Subscribe if you want to keep dissecting how thought becomes control. Like this if you've ever sensed that rebellion itself might be part of the design. Share this with someone who still believes academia is free. Because the greatest masters of power are not the kings who command, but the thinkers who justify why they should. Every age believes it has finally liberated philosophy from the chains of power. Every generation of thinkers declares itself free. And yet, the moment they speak, the chains shimmer again, invisible but unbreakable. Even the greatest rebels end up feeding the machine they swore to destroy. Take Nietzsche, the prophet of freedom, the executioner of morality. He declared war on all systems, tore down gods and idols, and demanded that man create his own values. But what did the world do with him? It turned him into an icon, a brand, a symbol of intellectual rebellion that could be printed, quoted, and sold. His words were domesticated by academia, sterilized into lectures and merchandise. The same power he despised reanimated his corpse and made him a saint of individuality. Individuality mass-produced for the obedient consumer. Or look at Marx. He wrote of class struggle, of liberation through revolution, but his ideas, once weaponized, built new bureaucracies, new tyrannies, new elites who quoted him while crushing those below. The hammer and sickle became a new crown. The proletariat replaced the king only to inherit his throne. Marx destroyed religion only to build a new one, a gospel of materialism, complete with prophets, scriptures, and inquisitors. Philosophy did not escape power through Marx. Power simply changed its costume. Even the existentialists who sought to free man from systems could not escape. Sartre spoke of freedom, but his voice became the soundtrack of post-war alienation, a style, a marketable melancholy. The cafes of Paris turned philosophy into fashion. Camus' absurd hero, meant to defy meaning, became a literary product sold to middle-class readers seeking existential thrill. Power turned rebellion into chic despair. The factory of ideas continued humming. You can trace this pattern across all modern thought. Foucault unmasked the invisible structures of power that shape knowledge itself, yet his analysis was absorbed into the same universities, the same funding systems, the same ideological machinery he exposed. His words became citations in papers, not revolutions in streets. His rebellion became theory, and theory became decoration. The system digested him completely. Even postmodernism, which was supposed to dissolve grand narratives, became a new grand narrative of its own. There is no truth, they said, and corporations applauded. Because when no truth exists, no resistance can organize. When every claim is relative, power remains untouched. The denial of truth does not free you. It disarms you. And philosophy, once again, built the perfect defense for domination. The idea that nothing can be challenged because nothing can be known. The irony is breathtaking. The thinkers who claim to destroy systems built the most resilient one of all, a system where rebellion is endless but harmless. Philosophy became a game of infinite critique, a noise that sounds like freedom but leads nowhere. The state tolerates it because it changes nothing. The philosopher writes his critique, the university applauds, the publisher profits, and the rulers sleep soundly. And then came the digital age, where power became invisible, algorithmic, data-driven. You would think philosophers would sound the alarm, but most joined the spectacle. They lecture about ethics while feeding the same platforms they condemn. They warn about attention economies while competing for clicks. They speak of autonomy while selling themselves as brands. They critique capitalism while living off its algorithms. The philosopher has become an influencer with a library. Philosophy now serves power not through ideology, but through distraction. Every debate, every contradiction, every word is absorbed into an endless stream. The philosopher no longer legitimizes kings or gods. He legitimizes chaos. He gives the illusion that thinking is happening, that discourse matters, while the real power operates silently, mechanically, beyond words. The rulers no longer need to silence thought. They drown it in noise. What makes this all so effective is that philosophers genuinely believe they're resisting. They publish essays on oppression, tweet about justice, sign petitions against tyranny. But all of it is spectacle. It provides the sensation of virtue without the risk of consequence. Power loves this kind of rebellion. It gives people something to watch while nothing changes. Philosophy has become entertainment for the educated, rebellion for the safe, fire that burns on screen but never leaves ashes. There was a time when philosophy risked everything, when speaking truth could mean exile or death. Today, the philosopher risks nothing and loses everything that once made philosophy sacred. The courage of thought has been replaced by the comfort of discourse, and in that comfort, power thrives. Think of it this way. If your words can go viral, they are already harmless. The system does not amplify what threatens it. It only amplifies what stabilizes it. And that includes most philosophy today. The radical becomes digestible. The dangerous becomes trendy. The forbidden becomes monetized. Every thinker who reaches the masses is already part of the apparatus they claim to critique. So here we are, a world drowning in thinkers but starving for truth. The philosopher who once stood against kings now stands with them on panels, conferences, and televised debates. He no longer shapes conscience, he manages it. He no longer guides humanity, he moderates its confusion. Comment below, which modern philosopher do you think has truly escaped this cycle? Or is that even possible anymore? Subscribe if you want to keep peeling away the illusions that thought still serves freedom. Like this, if you've ever felt that even rebellion now feels rehearsed. Share this with someone who thinks the academy still holds truth, and let them see the machine that feeds on it. Because philosophy no longer challenges power. It speaks in its language, eats from its hand, and calls that enlightenment. The hidden masters are not kings. They are not presidents, not CEOs, not tyrants in palaces. Those are masks. The true masters are structures, systems so vast and abstract that they no longer need faces. They do not issue commands. They shape the very conditions in which commands make sense. They do not silence you. They teach you what to say. They do not kill the philosopher. They educate him. This is the final evolution of power. In ancient times, domination was visible. Chains, crowns, armies, decrees. In modernity, it became ideological. Laws, propaganda, institutions. But today, it has become ontological. Power no longer tells you what to believe. It decides what can be believed at all. It defines the possible. And philosophy, as always, polishes its throne. You see, the philosopher no longer serves a ruler. He serves a reality. He does not justify a king. He justifies the system itself. The logic of progress. The religion of data. The morality of productivity. He baptizes the machine. Every thought he produces is formatted, processed, monetized. His rebellion becomes metadata. His insight becomes a trend. He feeds the algorithm that rewards visibility over truth, speed over depth, compliance over courage. Philosophy has become infrastructure. And what are these invisible masters made of? Code. Institutions. Cultural reflexes. Language itself. Power now rules through the syntax of thought, through the invisible grammar of civilization. You are trained not to see it. You are trained to think in its categories, to feel in its parameters, to speak in its limits. You believe you are free because the cage is transparent. The philosopher, too, lives in that cage. He calls it reason. He polishes its bars with logic, paints its floor with metaphors, and calls the design understanding. His questions never touch the structure. They orbit safely within it. He dissects the shadows while the walls remain untouched. He does not even know that he serves. That is the final triumph of the hidden masters. Obedience without awareness. Collaboration disguised as intellect. Who are they then, these hidden masters? They are systems, yes, but also instincts. The deep animal of hierarchy inside the human mind. The craving for order, for meaning, for authority. Philosophy did not create that impulse. It merely translated it into thought. Every system of reason is a cathedral built for fear. Fear of chaos, fear of uncertainty, fear of standing alone without a doctrine to kneel to. That fear is the oldest ruler in history. Power simply wears its face. When Plato designed the Republic, when Aquinas built theology, when Hegel wrote of spirit, when Marx wrote of history, they were all building temples for fear. Structures that promised order against the abyss. That is what makes power eternal. It does not conquer through force but through comfort. It offers the philosopher meaning, and the philosopher bows. Truth, virtue, progress, these are only masks worn by fear to rule with elegance. Even the digital age, which pretends to have killed all gods, has built new ones. Algorithms are our deities, data our scripture, connection our worship. We are told we are free because no one commands us, but that is precisely why the new masters are perfect. They do not rule bodies, they rule time, attention, perception. The philosopher serves them now too, translating their logic into ethical theory, normalizing their power through language of convenience and progress. The same patterns repeat. The thinker becomes the priest, the machine becomes the altar. You might think this is despair. It isn't. It is vision. Once you see the structure, you are no longer blinded by it. Once you recognize that every philosophy is a form of obedience, you can finally choose your servitude consciously. You can decide what you will serve, instead of pretending not to serve at all. Freedom does not mean having no masters, it means seeing them clearly. This is what the hidden masters fear most, the awakening of clarity. Because clarity cannot be controlled, it cannot be marketed, branded, or absorbed. The moment you see the mechanism, it stops working. That is why philosophy, despite all its servitude, still contains a dangerous seed. Even corrupted, it retains a memory of rebellion, a spark that refuses domestication. That spark is awareness. To think without illusion is to see the world stripped of every justification. To see power as it is, not evil, not good, but simply alive, expanding, feeding, adapting. Power is the oldest organism, and philosophy is its language. You cannot destroy it. You can only learn to speak it fluently without letting it speak through you. The hidden masters want your obedience, not your body, not your voice, your interpretation. They want you to believe that the system is reality itself, that there is no outside, no alternative. But the philosopher who dares to see beyond power does not escape it, he transcends it. He stops serving. He becomes silent, not out of fear, but out of understanding. Silence, in that sense, is rebellion. When you no longer react, no longer repeat, no longer feed the structure, you starve it. Perhaps this is what true philosophy was meant to be, not obedience disguised as wisdom, but awareness disguised as madness. The ancient prophets, the hermits, the cynics, the mystics, they were not irrational. They simply refused to participate. They saw the machine of power and stepped out of it, not to destroy it, but to stop polishing its gears. That is the only real escape. Comment below. Do you think any philosopher has ever truly escaped power's grasp? Or is every act of thought another form of submission? Subscribe if you want to keep exploring the forbidden side of philosophy, the one that strips away even the philosopher's illusions. Like this if you've ever felt that understanding itself can be dangerous. Share this with someone who still believes knowledge is freedom, and let them see how easily freedom becomes a tool. Because the hidden masters do not need your chains, they only need your faith. And philosophy, for all its brilliance, has always been their most elegant servant.